Good morning, everyone. My name is Valeria Maduro. Welcome to this international conference hosted by Trusted Advisors with the support of Pepper International and Kroll and proudly sponsored by Baybank, Quijano y Asociados, and UCAP. Today, we gather to share strategic tools and valuable insights in a setting where financial leadership, wealth protection, and risk management play a key role. Please note that the conference will be conducted in English. Simultaneous translation headsets are available outside of this room who require them. Now, please welcome to our host and visionary leader, the CEO of Trusted Advisor, Mr. Charlie Morris, for this official event opening. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Bueno, la conferencia del día de hoy va a ser en inglés, así que los que no tienen sus aparatos, por favor, pónganselos. Okay? Good morning to everyone. On behalf of Trusted Advisors and our entire team, we want to thank you for joining us this morning. In times like these that we live today, with an uncertain economic and trade outlook around the world, that far more unsettled than anyone could ever think, we feel compelled to reach out and offer a handshake, uniting friends and top professionals and having you present as attendants to this conference. This conference is featuring internationally renowned panelists and friends, such as Carol Pepper and Kroll, both distinguished professionals who assess and evaluate risk daily across multiple jurisdictions, identifying threats that can either support or undermine economies, wealth, and individuals. All of us here, in one way or another, need honest, transparent, and true professional guidance to navigate the storms of crisis that have built up over the years. And now the most important one, the U.S. tariff crisis and its impact on global trade. Each day that passes, and especially in these difficult and fast-changing times, I become more convinced that our role as independent advisors, not tied or with ownership control from any institution, bank, financial entity, or brokerage firm, is an essential centerpiece for effective wealth management to serve as protector of client assets. We offer aligned advice with your true goals, free from conflict of interest, and guided by honesty above all, which is our highest value as a firm. Once again, thank you for being here. I hope we all take something valuable from this session, which I believe will play an important role in helping us understand the key risks we need to identify and how we can begin preparing for a new global economic order. Thank you once again to all of you for being here, to our sponsors, to our team for organizing the event. And now we'll leave you with a short corporate video to introduce Trusted Advisors. Thank you.
En un entorno donde todo cambia a gran velocidad, ser asesorada de manera independiente y transparente es crítico para una buena planificación patrimonial y financiera. Hemos acompañado a nuestros clientes en varios ciclos económicos cambiantes y contextos desafiantes. Y en cada uno hemos logrado navegar la tormenta con éxito y llevar a nuestros clientes a puerto seguro.
Con un diagnóstico patrimonial integral, diseñamos estrategias personalizadas que corresponden a las metas personales y empresariales para cada etapa de la vida. Ofrecemos soluciones únicas y diferenciadas que combinan la independencia, especialización y una visión de largo plazo.
Acompañamos el crecimiento de familias, personas, empresas y cooperativas de ahorro y crédito, con un propósito que permanece constante: asegurar que cada patrimonio esté planificado, organizado y protegido.
Todo lo que hacemos responde a una sola prioridad: que nuestros clientes vivan con la tranquilidad de que su futuro está en buenas manos.
Nuestra experiencia nos ha enseñado que avanzar a un ritmo firme y una actitud conservadora no solo brinda estabilidad, es lo que con el tiempo marca la diferencia.
Porque una buena planificación financiera comienza con visión y se consolida en un legado que trasciende hacia generaciones.
Honor to introduce our featured speaker, Carol Pepper, CEO of Pepper International. With more than 30 years of experience in family office management and global wealth advisory, Carol has worked with high net worth families across the US, Europe, Latin America, and Asia, helping them structure, protect, and grow their legacies. A recognized leader and innovator, Carol has been featured on CNBC, Bloomer TV, and Fox Business. Today, she will share her perspective on navigating challenging times in her presentation, having success in turbulent times, strategies, and tactics to apply in 2025. Please join me in this giving warm welcome to Carol Pepper.
Thank you. Good morning. So wonderful to be with all of you. Thank you for the warm welcome. Thank you to Charlie and his beautiful family and Christian and all of the wonderful people here with us today. I'm very excited to share some thoughts with you about what's happening in the world, what I see as I travel around, and what other families are doing in these interesting times. I'm sure you've heard there is a Chinese proverb that says, "May you live in interesting times," and we are definitely living in interesting times. So let's see. Okay. Anybody here watch the news in the morning? So we've had trade wars, we have recession forecasts. You wake up one day, we're going this direction. We wake up the next day, we're going that direction. It's very hard for business owners right now to make long-term plans because we're in a time of uncertainty. Gold is doing extremely well for the first time in many, many years and may go to $5,000 or $10,000 an ounce because people are worried, they're nervous, people don't know what's happening. And that's the environment that we're in. So it's basically an environment of slower growth, potentially, higher volatility, and lower profits. But this is not the first time human beings have faced this kind of environment. And I like to look to history and what our ancestors have faced, what has happened over time in the world, to think about how do we react. And one of my favorite books for business is called The Art of War by a general named Sun Tzu. Some of you may have heard of this book. It's a famous, very small book. You can read it in 20 minutes. But he talks a lot about war and times of uncertainty. When he was alive, there were various states in China fighting each other, trying to take over. It was a time of aggression and uncertainty. So his advice was basically that you have to know yourself extremely well in times of uncertainty, meaning your strengths, your company, your family, what is good and what needs improvement. And you must also know your enemy, the others in the battle and the terrain that you're working on. And I love this last point he says, which is not as famous as just know yourself. If you know yourself and the enemy, you will win. If you only know yourself but not the enemy, you will lose. And if you know neither, you're going to lose every time. So gathering information, being extremely prepared, watching the changes is something we have to do right now. And I love this last line because he was in charge of vast, large armies. And just like a big company, he had to make plans to move huge troops around, decide where to build a fort, whether or not to lay a siege. He was very interested in working with spies, security people, things like this. So he says the commander who wins a fight performs numerous calculations before the battle. So being prepared, understanding your business, being on top of your numbers is how you win in this type of environment that we're facing today. And so that is what we are going to talk about, and then we are going to be very privileged to hear from one of the leading security firms in the world about what they're doing for global companies around the world on these issues. So there's 3 things we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about protection, process, because process is actually one of the most important things you can have in your business and with your family to succeed, and resetting your priorities, understanding that, okay, the environment is not stable. How do we maneuver and constantly reset our priorities? And I can tell you, I have been taking care of families for a long time. We're going to just look briefly at what I've been up to, just so that you can know who is speaking to you. And so for the last 40 years, this is my 40th year doing this, I have been working with families all over the world, both Latin America, United States, Middle East, Asia, and Europe. And what I can tell you is it's been an incredible journey. I've been honored to win a number of awards. I feel very grateful for that. And by the way, all of these slides are available. There's a QR code on your table that you can get on your phone, and you'll get a lot of this background information. And before that, I was able to work at Morgan Stanley, JP Morgan, Credit Suisse, and I managed $1 billion for the Rockefeller family. So I've been very lucky to see a lot of different families and their businesses in a lot of different situations over many different periods of crisis, dot-com crashing and oil crisis, even the first crisis, some of us remember for Japan when that crashed in 1987. So we've seen a lot of ups and downs, and it seems like now we have a new crash every year, a new problem every year. So yes, it is a different environment, but in some ways it's the same, an uncertain, changing environment, right? So I'm going to talk briefly about our first strategy, which is setting up and protecting your family first. I mean, think about it. God forbid something really bad happens. The most important people to protect are your family members, your actual people that you love. And they need to be protected, both their money, their strategies, and the children that you are raising to take over your business. All of this needs protection, especially in a time of so much turmoil. And honestly, the best thing we have to do is have the mindset of a family office. And what is that mindset? Preserving your wealth for multiple generations. The Rockefellers, when I was there, they were in generation 6 and 7. Now they're in generation 8 and 9. They still have a massive fortune. They give a lot of money to charity anonymously. And their children successfully, generation after generation, have grown that business and that fortune. And that doesn't happen by accident. That happens by process. So if you want to take the beautiful businesses that you have created, and you want your children and your grandchildren and your great-grandchildren to actually have that money, you're going to have a strategy. And over the last, I'd say, 25 years, I've seen the family office structure become that most protective structure that you can create to take care of this family of yours. Without that structure, it's very difficult to make these generational transactions, because what happens when humans are under stress? The part of their brain that is not rational takes over. Fight or flight, the decisions you make in a moment of crisis can be the wrong decision. But if you've practiced as a family making decisions in calm times, having quarterly meetings at least, if not monthly, working together steadily, when a crisis hits, you are now prepared. You're not learning to work together at the same time that you have to handle a crisis. So that is why it's very important to set up a good family office process and procedure, if you don't have one, or if you think you have one, to upgrade it now during this time of pressure, so that you can be successful for whatever comes our way. Because I don't care what you hear on the news, I can tell you, because I go on the news, they're always asking us to make it more exciting, more sexy, more crazy when we talk on television. So you're not necessarily getting all the truth on the news from any news outlet. So you as a family have to take in a lot of information and make your own decisions. How are we going to respond, given our circumstances, to the situation that we're facing? And you need to have this family office mindset to get through these tough times. Okay? All of these slides will be available for you afterwards, so you don't need to worry about taking notes. But basically, what you're trying to do is maximize your wealth, make good decisions without fighting with each other, centralize that information, and every generation revitalize and renew the family. What can go wrong? You've probably heard this from somebody before, talking to you about money management, but it's really actually true, and I have witnessed it firsthand. 70% of families don't get beyond third generation, sometimes even less. Beyond fourth and fifth, very, very few in the world. So the main reasons why the families break up and the business doesn't last: trust and communication breakdown, failure to prepare the children, and no family mission, which we're going to talk about briefly. So it's the people, it's not the money. It's not making investment decisions. It's being able to work together to make decisions, whatever you decide, as a group, without fighting and lawsuits. You see them in the newspaper, families falling apart. The Pritzker family, for example, in the United States, one of the granddaughters thought the trustees were doing a bad job. She took the entire family to court. All the papers of the family, this multi-billion-dollar family, were all over the news and the media because someone didn't listen to a granddaughter. And that was very difficult for the family. And it didn't really help her that much either. But nobody was listening. There was no communication. And she felt she had no other choice but to go to court. We don't want that. We want to have good situations where families can communicate, and way before there's a big problem, they can work together. Very, very important. How would it look like if you had a business? You know, initially you might have in your family holding company, the CFO, and some people helping you with your personal things for the familia, but eventually it's much more secure and safe, as we'll hear from Kroll, to set up a small, separate group that just deals with your personal matters. Very important, because you could have a disgruntled employee. Let's say you're planning to do a layoff in the company, but you're also building a new beach house in San Pedro Island. And the employees don't need to know that you're building a new beach house at the same time you're asking them to take a salary cut. But employees talk. So you want to keep the corporate employees separate from the people working on your personal matters for security. You don't want them telling the other employees what's going on in your family. That should be separate. So you can set up a very simple structure with a family office to the side, and then the family is both overseeing all of the operations and the investments and the personal structuring for the family. So that is, simply what it would look like. Nothing very difficult. When you have the actual family office itself, it looks something like this. It's not actually a very complicated structure. You have an external reporting system that holds all the information for the family. Asset managers can feed the information into that structure. The legal and tax and accounting and investment people put in their information. They only see what they're supposed to see. Everything is at bank level security or better, so it's very private. That information is digested and analyzed, and then you, the family members, actually make decisions on the important things. You're not worried about gathering information or finding a spreadsheet somewhere. You're actually given very organized information to make the key decisions. This improves your time management and your ability to be focused on the right thing. And in a time of crisis, that's the most important thing, your time, and what are you going to be looking at, and how are you going to analyze the information. And as Charlie mentioned earlier, everybody has their agenda on your money. You know this. We all know this. Everybody, the bank wants you to keep the money in the bank. The asset managers want you to keep the money invested and not in cash. They don't want you to buy gold. They don't make money if you buy gold, for example. You know, everybody has their agenda. So you as the family members have to say, thank you very much for telling me your agenda, and then pull it all together and say, okay, what are we going to do for us? Because we know our agenda. And this way, each person who works for you knows what they need to know, but nothing more. Now, you might say, well, I do this already. But for most patrons, it's in your head. It's being done mentally inside of your head. And I've seen a lot of unfortunate situations, especially over the last few years with COVID, where people just drop dead, unfortunately. They have a heart attack, they die from COVID, and now the family, the sons and the daughters, don't have that information that's in your head. It's now too complicated. You cannot just keep it in your head anymore and verbally tell your sons what to do, because your empires are too big. Now imagine 10, 15 years from now, things keep going well. Maybe your sons and daughters aren't going to take over for 10 or 15 more years. It's going to be even bigger, more complicated. So that's why we have these systems. So something suddenly happens to the key family member, who's usually the dad. If something happens to dad, the family has the information, the professionals are organized, and the decision-making is organized. So we know what to do. We are able to function. God forbid, if dad is temporarily unable to make decisions or unfortunately passes away suddenly. And this is real. I've seen this over and over again, and I know Matt and Janet have at Kroll as well. Now, it's all very well and good to be administrative. That's sort of just making sure everybody knows where the information is. The information is in the right countries. We're going to talk about that. But then you want to not only be administrative, you want to be strategic. By that, I mean the family is energized by what's happening because it really reflects their own values, what's important to them. So the investments that you make, the businesses that you run are in line with your vision for where you want this family to go over the next 100 years. So it's a big vision that your children need to be a part of, ideally, because they will be carrying it on. Think of the Rockefellers. It started with one man and a little ledger book you can go see in the museum in Pecanico, New York, having his vision. And now 9 generations later, there's over 300 people following that vision. And that can be your family also. I've seen it, and it really works. Okay? So we're going to say, well, how do we, if I like this idea, Carol, how do I do it? Well, we're not going to have time to talk about all this today, but just to give you an idea, you want to know what those family values are. You want to have a very strong articulation with all the family members. And I'll talk to you briefly about the family protocol or constitution. I know many of you have heard of this idea. You want to make sure that you have a decision-making process for these difficult, challenging times that we have. Probably nowadays, you want to have your money spread into multiple locations and multiple jurisdictions. You don't want to put all your eggs in one basket anymore. We don't know what's going to happen. So many, many families have multiple family office satellites and locations. You need a business plan just the same as if you're starting a company. And then you need to have an investment process. How do we take in the information from all the banks and all the money managers and make our own decisions? Because the family must always drive the investments. It's your money. It's not their money, it's your money. So you must be good decision makers and stewards of your family wealth. You don't have to manage it every day. I wrote a book for women called The 7 Pearls of Financial Wisdom, a woman's guide to enjoying wealth and power, because women bring important perspective to the decision-making on money management, and they are important, and they are very good at managing money too. So it's not just the gentlemen of the family, it's also the ladies. Yep. And when you do that, your family is going to be successful. These are just to give you an idea, all of the types of services that we're going to put together in a family office. We're going to make sure that everything is integrated and everything is working toward the same goal. So besides investing, it's about the planning, the locations that you put the family office in, education of the children, healthcare, security, absolutely security, what's going on in the businesses. All of this must be integrated. That's the main thing. And nowadays, because our businesses are so complicated, you have many, many top experts who can work with you. But then it's the synthesis of all that information and the prioritizing of your goals that is your job. So the experts are going to make all of this information available, and you still have to decide what to do. And imagine your child sitting in your chair 15 years from now. He or she has to make that decision. You have to train that person to be ready to do it properly. Yeah? So we're going to just talk a little bit about that governance concept, because people often say, oh, that's the soft skill. It's not like managing money. It's a soft skill. It's the key skill. It's the key skill. Okay, it's a meta skill. Underneath, meta skills are the skills that make all the other skills work. How to decide today. We do not want our kids asking ChatGPT whether to buy or sell our companies. Okay? That's the way the world is going. Making all decisions by Googling. You can't make decisions about a family business by Googling. You have to take information and make a good decision, but you have to trust your brothers, your sisters, your family members, that if you all decide together, you will make a good decision. That's important. To get to that step, you have to practice. And the way that we do this, so that when the big decisions come, like should we sell a business? Should we leave the country, move to another country? Many people from Venezuela that I'm sure we all know had to make that decision. Does the family stay, or do we pull the whole business out of Venezuela and move it to Panama, for example, or wherever? So big important decisions, practice, 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 and when they come, you make good decisions, okay? Also, the old school decision-making is, I just say this is how it is, and that's how it is. Tyrannical decision-making. We know what that looks like today, I think. But what works with most next-generation people, young people, they want rules-based decision-making. We have rules that everyone in the family is under the same rules. It's not because he's the favorite that he gets everything, and, you know, she hates this one, so they get nothing. That's not a good way to run your family. It's just not going to work in the long run. The main document that we use for family governance is called a family constitution or a family protocol. And this document describes a lot of important things like who's a family member? Are the brother-in-law and sister-in-laws family members or not? Do the children get to make votes? At what age? Do the people get to work in the family business? What do they have to do to qualify to work in the family business? What if one brother is just a party animal and the sister went to Harvard? Does the brother become the sister's trustee because he is male and she is female? That still happens today sometimes. So making rules that are fair, that everybody can live under, is the family constitution. It usually tells you how to interact with the companies, philanthropy, joint properties, and other family assets. So we will not have time to go through all of the complications and exciting parts of making your family constitution, but I did just want to mention this to you because I think it's so interesting. This is the Mogi family. Some of you might have used Kikkoman soy sauce on your sushi. This family has been living under their family protocol since 1630, okay? 17 generations. Look at how beautiful their family protocol is. It's starts from the values. Make strong morals your foundation and focus on money last. Now we're 17 generations and they're still doing very well. Thank you very much. Yeah. So this is the type of morals-based thinking, virtue-based thinking that can get you to 17 generations. It's simple, strong truths. When you teach your children this, the family tends to go on and on. They remember these things, whether they learn from mom and dad or the grandparents. Be strict with yourself, but kind to your servants. Keep your personal expenses low. Save money for the unexpected. Sounds so simple, but it worked for 17 generations. And you can read about this family. They're very, very interesting. Just to give you an idea, in the family constitution, you're going to cover these topics. You're going to uncover your family values, your mission and vision statement, who are the family members, how do you conduct yourself, who are the senior family members who are on the family council, and what happens if you break the rules. So these are the kinds of things that you would work on. So you can imagine if you had these things and everybody agreed with them, when you have a crisis period and we have to vote on an important decision, we know what to do. We're ready to make important votes. Yep. And then your family office staff needs to read that constitution so he or she can execute your vision with the staff. Very important. This is a new structure new trend that's happening now, which really goes to what's happening today, and that is geopolitical locations of your family offices. It used to be that people would have one family office in one country, assets all in one country. Everything was simple. Now, you're going to be putting assets in multiple countries, multiple jurisdictions. You need tax lawyers and advisors who can actually quickly move your money from one place to another. I will say Trusted Advisors is excellent at this type of a job. They know how to do this, and it's very, very important. Let me give you a short example. So you may know that London was a very good place to just buy a big, beautiful townhouse in Mayfair, and that money, you were not taxed as if you were resident in London. It was called non-resident, non-dom. You could live there but not be taxed. And many, many wealthy people from all over the world moved their money and bought that townhouse in Mayfair, and it made Mayfair a beautiful place and made a lot of money for the UK also. However, they've changed those rules now, new political party. Now, if you keep your townhouse in London, you're taxed as if you live in London 30 and 40% on all of your money. Guess what's happened to Mayfair property? Prices have dropped. People have moved buying gorgeous apartments in Dubai now. I know of at least 35 families that have sold their house in Mayfair, and I've been getting a lot of calls from real estate brokers in London about the deals on beautiful apartments near the Connaught in London because everybody had to leave. They can rent, but they can't own now in Mayfair. You got to move your money out of there. That happened pretty quickly, and I can't tell you how many people their advisors weren't on top of that. And so the rules changed in April, and they were starting to think about what to do in March. It's too late. It's too complicated to move everything so quickly. So having a group that works with you to keep on top of how the tax regimes are changing in different locations is very, very important right now because all the governments of the world need money in whatever country, and they're starting to want to tax people on different things. So you have to be ready to move your money. And, I used to say at least 2 locations. Now maybe it's more like at least 3, 4, or 5 locations because we just don't know what's going to happen. And Deloitte Touche, you can get the study online, just came out with a report that said family offices, more than a quarter already have at least 2 locations, and they're starting to get to 3 and 4. So this is happening right now. These are the kinds of things that, as a family, you're going to have to decide on. Okay, let's say, Carol, I agree with you. Well, what 5 locations? And how much do I have to pay To have 5 locations, is it worth it to me? Is there enough risk that the money I have to pay to keep 5 locations is worth it? But that's an important question you have to address. Maybe you only need 3. Maybe you do need 5. Maybe you need Singapore, Dubai, Panama, Miami, and maybe somewhere else, Mauritius, Singapore, different parts of the world, because we never know which political situations are going to change when nowadays. You know? As an example, maybe you're doing one in the US, one in Panama, one in Europe, one in Dubai, and one in Singapore. Okay. That sounds easy, but it actually setting up companies in all these locations and being able to quickly move your money if you had to is not something you can do in a day. And it's something you have to decide. It will affect your children. Are they going to be willing to? Do you need to send someone to live in Dubai? In Mexico right now, you can send somebody offshore to live outside for 3 years, and you can transfer all your family stock tax-free. That's going to go away. So a lot of people are sending one kid out to Spain to live now for a couple of years so that they can move family stock around without taxes. That loophole will most likely close. So these are the kinds of things you have to keep on top of nowadays. It's not so simple. But it can be done. It's not impossible either. That's the most important thing. Now we're going to talk briefly about investment process because it's the same concept, the same theme. We have to be in control. We have to have good information, as Sun Tzu told us, to make good decisions. And we have to have vigilance over what is happening, right? We have to be looking for early warning signs, and we have to have enough information to be able to move quickly if we need to. So the process, when I talk about process, it has to be meaningful, measurable, and transparent. Why? Because I don't want to hear, oh, that brother, he just manages our money, and I don't know what he's doing, and everybody's always complaining about him behind his back, but nobody else comes to the investment meeting, and that poor guy is trying to do it by himself. That's a lot of families. Today, the world is too complicated. We actually need to have people working together. Oh, dad is starting to have dementia, but he doesn't know it, and we don't know how we're going to get a hold of the process. Difficult, right? How are we going to make changes? These things are very real that everybody's facing as people get older. And I really tend to believe that what actually helps you, what actually protects you in every single state of the world is this. Trust and well-being. You have to trust each other as we're all on the same side to make decisions. We're communicating consistently in a way that we all trust. We're managing risk. We know there's risk and we're going to take care of it. And we want to grow the wealth. If we do those things, we're going to win in these uncertain times. And understanding roles and responsibilities. You know, who should be the decision makers? At the end of the day, I believe family makes their own decisions with the informed information from a chief investment officer, researchers, bankers, tax people, etc., and reporting that's customized just for you, what you need to know. That's how you make good decisions. If you don't have all of these pieces straight, it's difficult. You don't want to be a guy who's trying to make decisions about investments, but your statements from the bank give you very little information to make a decision. That's very much the case, but you can buy a software that will give you a lot more information than you have from your bank statement. And then you can make good decisions. Anybody who's interested, I can talk about this for hours, but I won't today, don't worry. And these are just some of the things that the chief investment officer has to worry about. You need to have somebody or a group taking all of these decisions for you. Ideally, this person is not getting paid to manage the money from the products that he gives you, because behavior follows compensation. So if I'm paid a lot of money to sell you product A, I'm going to want to sell you product A, but product B might be just as good but cheaper, and I'm not even going to show it to you. So you have to be an alert to people. How are they being paid? And how is this advice coming to you? Is it really objective? Yeah? So everybody getting good information, then being able to make good decisions with consolidated reporting is really going to be your friend. That's how we're going to make it through this difficult time. And then having a serious investment process inside the family office, ideally. You start with deciding asset allocation, what money in what type of entities in what jurisdiction, and putting it all together so that you know how much should be in this portfolio, how much in that portfolio, what part in real estate, what part in stocks, what part in bonds, what currencies, what risk level. And it's going to vary by the type of entity you're creating. Then you're going to tell all these money managers in a written investment policy statement what you want them to do. They should not be writing the investment policy statement. You should be writing it. And we could spend a whole hour or two on how to do that. And then finally you pick the managers, right? It's like constructing a house, step by step by step. Yeah? And then you monitor it going forward, and you get the information that you need to monitor everything properly. Yeah? And again, I'm a very, very big fan of having your own private consolidated reporting with your own customized views to make the right decisions for your family. System should be absolutely strategic and based on what's important to you, which 99% of the time is not what is important to your money manager. Your money manager wants to make more money from you and have you more invested. You want to protect the family for multiple generations. So you have to tell him what to do, not the other way around. Very important. Yep. And for example, most of the families that I work with, I tell them to do advisory management, not discretionary. Advisory means the money managers have to ask your permission to buy or sell something. Discretionary means they can do whatever they want with your money, and you look at it once a month or once a quarter or once a year. I like to ask people to be advisory, stay involved. Even if you personally don't want to do it, make one of your kids do it. Make somebody be watching and actually making the decisions. Take responsibility. Don't just give it to the banks. Why? Because I'll just give you an example. There was a time where I act as a CIO for some families, and I got a call from every single bank that month saying Germany was going to be the thing. Buy German stocks. I mean, Deutsche Bank called me, JP Morgan called me, Goldman, buy Germany, sell US. And the family and I looked at each other and said, no, we don't believe that. And sure enough, it never happened. But they were all getting paid a lot of money from Germany at that moment to push Germany. Didn't do anything for the families. Most of the time, they're asking you to have every dime invested. What am I going to tell you? 2 to 3 years worth of cash in the bank. Cash or cash equivalents. So if we go through a very bad time, you can pay all your expenses for your company and your family. You need to calculate how much that is to know how much to put aside. So you have to be really on top of your accounting and know what your expenses are and project them for 2 to 3 years and put that money away. And that's not an investment account. That's not counted in investment performance. That's our safety money. Most women know about having a nest egg. That's your nest egg. And that money sits over there, so God knows what any politician is doing. You are safe to pay your bills. Very, very important, yeah? These are all the different things that are important to you and not important to the bank. And nothing against the banks. We need them. They're important. But their agenda is not your agenda, right? That's what we remember. Increase liquidity. As I said, I like to have 2 to 3 years. And I would say there's only one asset allocation in the whole world. Only one that you have to know. And it's only 3 letters. CBA. C equals cash. 2 to 3 years in the bank. a little bit more if you want to be even safer. B is beta. That means anything in the public markets is going to move with the market. Beta, it's the same return as the market. You might get 0.5% more, 2% more, but it's not going to be radically different than what the market is doing if it's a publicly traded security. 99% of those securities nowadays are being traded by computers very quickly. You can't keep up with it. So accept it. You're going to get market return on your liquid securities. Alpha is your private companies, real estate, directs, venture capital. That's where your alpha is. And in any one portfolio, you'll have the right weight of those three numbers. Maybe you need more beta and just market returns in a philanthropy portfolio. For your grandchildren, you need more alpha. They've got 30 years to grow. In your personal portfolio, you need your cash to pay your bills. So you're going to be making the decisions about where to put the money based on the needs of the portfolio, but those are the only three important things that actually count, in my opinion. And again, asset liability management really is going to count in the next few years, because we could wake up tomorrow with a new news announcement and have to do something different, so we better have enough cash to pay the bills. Yep. The other thing I will mention to the business owners in the room, if your children do not want to keep the business, and they've kind of told you, maybe they're afraid to tell you, but you kind of know they don't want to keep the business, that's okay. But who should sell the business then? You should sell the business. Again, what if the world really goes crazy? We might go into a 10-year downturn in the next period of time, but right now everybody still thinks everything's sort of okay. So maybe now you have to get more serious and actually sell your business. If you want to sell it in the next 10 years, maybe you should sell it in the next 6 months. That's my opinion. I'm serious. I'm totally serious. Or find out the people that are going to buy it, because you are the best person to sell it. If your kids don't want it, don't leave it and make them do it. Don't give them that burden. Just bite the bullet and be the hero and sell it at a great price for your children. If they don't want it, you have to sell it. Or make a strategic alliance that if something happens to you, that other company will take it over. You can do a partial sale, try before you buy, sell 20 or 30% to another company, and if you all are friendly, have a time when they can take the rest of it, or they're forced to take the rest of it at a good price. Okay? That's a hard one, but actually it's time to make those decisions, guys. It really is time. Because we might have 10 years when you can't make that decision, and you may not want to wait 10 more years. You might be stuck with a company that's doing great now, but what if 10 years from now AI has made your company completely obsolete? You will wish that you sold it. I can tell you another story. There was a guy, a friend of mine, his father had a business. He was offered like $40 million. It was a record company. What's happened to records today? Dad thought he could get more money. He decided to wait. He never got a second offer. That kid got zero. That company went to nothing because technology changed. Everything went to Apple and iTunes, and nobody wanted a record company at all. So technology is going to keep changing industries. So if your kids don't want the company, get rid of it today. Not get rid of it, but you know what I mean. Find a good home for it. I know there are a lot of great companies in the region that other larger companies want. And the family's like, should I sell, should I not? But if the kids don't want it, sell it. That's just my advice. And I will say, no offense to the banks, but they're like grocery stores. You got to go in with a shopping list and decide what you want to buy. So if you know ahead of time, I want 25% of this portfolio in U.S. equities, you tell the banker that. Put $20 million, show me what you have in this type of equity, versus the banker telling you what he wants to sell you or she wants to sell you. Okay? And they will cut fees if they know they're competing against each other. Again, little secret. I know we all want to have all the assets for one client, but if I call and say, hey, this family office really likes you, but they're also talking to Bessemer Trust, JP Morgan, all of a sudden the fee drops. It happens all the time. So If they know they're competing, they love to compete against each other. So if they know they're competing against each other, they will give you a better price. You know, and also if you think, well, Alpha Carol, that's where I'm going to make money. I want to partner. My son wants to partner with his buddy and do something. You've got to be a good Tinder for businesses. You have to be somebody they want to swipe right for. Are you set up to articulate your family values? Because people who have a great family office, they want to invest with another group that has a great family office. They want someone else who cares about values, who's thinking long-term about their children and the grandchildren. So find partners who think like you do, and the business will go much better. And you have to have invested the time and money to be that family who can talk about yourselves that way in order to attract the other families who are doing that. Events like this and things that I know Charlie puts on here and other people in the room put on are great places to meet the kind of investors that you want to co-invest with, other families who think like you do that alpha work, to grow things and make them bigger. So that's really what I had to say to you today. We're going to now hear from Kroll. I will take some questions if there are any questions. And, of course, I'll be around for a few days if anybody wants to talk. But do we have any questions from the audience at the moment? Any questions? Yes.
What's your view on global tax and the risk that everybody faces going forward?
The question was, what is the view on global tax, and what is the view going forward? My view on global tax is it's going up. Every country in the world, every government is broke. Every person, every country wants to tax you. They all wish they could be the U.S. and tax on worldwide income. Some of them are saying, I will offer tax-free to bring people to my country, but that may change in the future. So it's very important, however, that you take advantage where you can. And people that are not U.S. are not taxed on worldwide income. You can save a tremendous amount of money with sophisticated location tax planning. And if you aren't doing it, you should be. You need to find Panama's a perfect place to find the people to help you do that kind of planning. But in general, look at the UK. They were willing to give up all those wealthy families living in the UK because politically, people didn't like the idea that rich people were living in London and not paying taxes. So when the government changes and there's pressure saying, hey, tax those rich people that are here, they will do it if the right political party gets into office. So that is my view. Just you have to be active to watch what you can do on taxes. Thank you. Question? Yes? Okay, the question was, thank you. The question was, okay, why did you sell your business in the next 6 months? What are you worried about in the next 10 years? Well, again, I am not able to see the future. Nobody can. But I would say we have some politicians in the world right now who have some very warmongering behavior going on, wanting to take over other people's countries. We have governments sending their citizens to prisons in other countries right now. We have things going on that we have not seen since World War II in a lot of different countries. We have a lot of this sort of, at the moment, almost the abandonment of cooperation and a move more toward using aggression and force to get what you want. That is never good for business. But right now, everybody's still saying, oh, it's not going to happen. It'll calm down. Don't worry. Tranquilo, tranquilo. But that may or may not be true. And I will say this because I often tell this story. When I was a young woman at J.P. Morgan, a little baby private banker, I had beautiful Jewish clients from Europe who had fled to the United States after World War II, and they had tattoos that they would show me of their prison tattoo with the number that they got as a child in a concentration camp in Europe. And they said to me, I'm alive because my parents made a decision to change before the situation became too difficult and I couldn't change. That's why I'm alive. Now, I hope to God we don't go to that situation. That's what we would call a tail event. Maybe it's only 10 or 20% possible, but it's higher than it was. It's higher than it was before because a lot of countries are making a lot of noise right now, and we don't know exactly what's going to happen. So that's why I'm saying that, because let's say it does get scarier. What's going to happen? Nobody's going to be buying companies. Right now, the next 6 months or so, everybody's thinking it's going to go back to normal. But what if it doesn't? That's the real question. I hope that's not the case. I don't want it to be the case. We're going to hear next from Kroll what they think. They have a huge, massive global staff looking at these kinds of questions. But if you're planning to sell anyway, start looking more seriously and doing it sooner rather than later. Because what if that does happen? I hope not. But again, families are, some of them are in their 16th generation. They lived through World War II, dropping of a nuclear bomb on the Kikkoman soy sauce family in Japan, and they're still going. So we will survive. We want to thrive. I think that's our message, right? We want to thrive. We want to be happy. We want our children to be happy. And no matter what happens in the outside world that we cannot control, we can control a lot by our decision making, by becoming good decision makers, working as a group together, uniting as a family, and being smart, taking in all that information so that we can move quickly if it is unfortunate and something bad happens. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this presentation. It's an honor to have you here. Well, we now continue with the exclusive panel on financial security and risk management, led by Kroll, a global firm known for his comprehensive experience in corporate intelligence, compliance, and reputation protection. This panel will be moderated by Carol Pepper, and we want to join Carol Pepper on this panel are the following Kroll experts. They are Matthew Dumper, Managing Director, Global Service Line Leader, Enterprise Security Risk Management. Please. Janet Basurto, Senior Manager, Enterprise Security Risk Management. Welcome. And you enjoy this session.
Feel free to get a little more coffee if you want before we start. Or I'll just. Okay. So now, have a little coffee if you want to refresh yourselves. We sat for quite a bit. But we're going to now be very, very, very lucky to have some time with Kroll. I've known Kroll for over 30 years. I knew Matt's boss before Matt was, I don't even know if you were working at that point, long time. And they're one of the most incredible firms I have the pleasure and honor of working with. So it's my great pleasure to give you access, thanks to Charlie and Trusted Advisors, to this wonderful group of people. And so I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves, and then we'll have some questions. And we'll start with you, Matt.
Thank you, Carol. I'm going to stand for just a second as I introduce you to Kroll. But first, a really warm and gracious thank you to Charlie, Trusted Advisors, and the other sponsors. This is a tremendous opportunity. And when Carol asked us to come and present on this subject matter, we jumped at the opportunity. Carol and Kroll, Carol and I have been through some very difficult client engagements together. And really, I think provided that good, sage guidance that families needed in times of crisis. And I'm really proud of the work that Pepper International and Kroll have done together over the years. And I can tell you, as Carol was talking and introducing our talk, when she was talking about everybody has an agenda. Everybody has an agenda. Kroll's agenda, my agenda, and working with Carol with some of the most influential families is protecting your families from harm and embarrassment. That's my job. That's our job. Whether that harm or embarrassment is born out of geopolitical risk, whether it's born out of family members, friends, business relationships, travel to risky environments, investment decisions, all of that can create risk. And that's the risk that we help avoid by providing good, well-informed geopolitical risk advice, travel security, managing threats to families, setting up the apparatus to protect family members globally from all forms of harm. That's what we do together. Now, as I take a step back, Kroll's a firm that is broken into two parts, financial advisory and risk advisory. I have colleagues who are absolute experts in global tax, valuations. We're the number one fairness opinion for transaction deals in the United States. When going through mergers and acquisitions, when thinking about the business partners that we have, we are one of the most sophisticated in third-party background due diligence so that you understand who you're doing business with globally. Our people are generally, obviously on the financial advisory side of our firm, financial experts. On our risk side, where I spend most of my time, former intelligence officers from various countries, investigative journalists, law enforcement from federal, state, and local levels. We round out our team so that we get access to the information that, frankly, nobody else does. So that's a brief introduction to Kroll. I'm really happy to be here in Panama. It's my first time in Panama. I spent most of my career before Kroll traveling the world with the U.S. Department of State. I was a diplomat. I was a special agent, so I ran the risk side of U.S. foreign policy. I spent a lot of time in U.S. foreign policy. I'll do my best here today to help you navigate some of the risks associated with the geopolitical landscape that we see today. So, Carol, thank you. Charlie, thank you. Trusted advisors and sponsors, thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you, Matt. So we're going to not pull any punches. Let's start with a question that is top of mind for people who do business in Panama and the United States. And it's what I alluded to earlier: geopolitical risk, tariff risk, political posturing, warmongering happening all over the globe. And people are still trying to run their businesses and decide where to put their family wealth. Talk to us about the best global practices that families and private companies owned by families use today to navigate, what's going on and what are they doing and how is Kroll helping them do that?
So much for starting off with an easy question. Look, there's a lot happening right now in the world of geopolitics. We're helping families navigate that, and the best ways that we're finding to do that is diversification. That's a trendy word. What does that mean? As Carol indicated, having a presence in multiple jurisdictions, deeply understanding those jurisdictions, from a tax and investment perspective, tremendously important. What I see a lot of families venturing out into these countries, out into these markets, out into these environments, they need that deep understanding. They need that deep understanding in culture. They need that deep understanding in business practice and how interpersonally we connect and we communicate. We can't do that all from home base. We have to find the right partners who understand not only the financial risk, but the risk to reputation. The risk of doing business with the wrong third party. How the geopolitics of Panama, United States will shake out, I have no earthly idea. I'd be lying to you if I said I did. What do I think is happening? I think there's and Janet will get to this a little bit later, in this VUCA world, this world full of volatility, there are agendas. Carol mentioned, everybody has an agenda. I do believe there are a lot of distractive tendencies right now coming out of the United States and others, where geopolitics is of chief concern. Foreign policy directives, foreign policy initiatives have changed dramatically. How do we understand the risks to you, your family, and the protection of your children, the protection of your homes, the protection of your family office, so that we can weather this storm together? We have those people globally that help advise on different regions of the world and really understand down to the neighborhood level what motivates people, what has been successful, and what the future forecast of safety and security in that location look like. That's the type of deep information you need before you venture into an overseas location. And that's what I hope to be able to offer, and that's what I pride myself and our firm on offering, because again, our only and chief concern is protecting our families from both harm and embarrassment. So while geopolitics is a bit uncertain at the moment, in all regions of the world, I do think having those partners globally who can help you understand, who are like-minded in your family values, who understand what it means to protect generational wealth, having those partners in various jurisdictions around the world so that you can call, so that you can bounce ideas off of, so that you can deeply understand what motivates people in those environments. That's what I think will work to your benefit and help safeguard your wealth. I'm not going to stand anymore. I just thought that was a good question.
No, that's important. Yes, Charlie.
What risks are you seeing for families, investors, and in general in the banking system? That's the first question. And the second question is, how big is your concern with cybersecurity risk, and what are you recommending clients?
Yeah.
We're just going that direction. Yeah, so just repeat the question, Matt, so everybody can hear it.
Yeah, so first question is, what are those risks that we're seeing to banks and institutions? And then how does cyber play into this whole? The risks that we follow most traditionally, globally, are those risks to individuals. What I have seen over the last 4 to 5 years are hostile governments targeting those in specific industries, commercial and industrial espionage in certain industries that put people at risk. We get involved most often with family offices when their advisors, when their people, when those they choose to do business with might not have their best interest at heart. And what we're finding more and more often is foreign governments with an interest in your wealth, with an interest in your strategy, with an interest in how you invest. Those hostile governments and those competitors globally, whether it be corporate or industrial espionage focused, using people, using technology to get closer to families, to get closer to decision makers, to understand more deeply why they make the decisions that they make. We find this in financial institutions, the tech industry, biomedical, pharma, defense, nearly every industry right now. There are adversaries, there are governments, and there are corporations, and there are individuals who target our clients from that commercial and industrial espionage perspective. And that starts, most generally, in the realm of cyber. International conflicts now, war efforts now, start in the world of cyber. Most family offices I've intersected with are woefully ill-prepared in the cyber world to protect their assets and to protect their people from the types of adversaries that we're seeing enter the landscape now. We're seeing a lot of family offices take the posture of a Fortune 500 company when it comes to cyber and physical security. While there's volatility and uncertainty in the world, getting access to individuals, getting access to individual strategies, whether they are business leaders or whether they are the wealthy investors, that information is critical. And that's what your adversaries, and when I talk about adversaries, I mean nation states, I mean competitive families, I mean corporations who have global reach and are well-resourced. And when it comes to cyber, many family offices even borrow the cybersecurity practices or the cybersecurity infrastructure of their companies. And what we've learned year after year after year is that the protocols that are in place for a corporate environment don't satisfy the risks or the needs of the family or the family office. A lot of the tools that might be used in a corporation to protect against a cyber actor won't operate well in a family environment because a lot of the other devices, a lot of the software, a lot of the programs that families use, these cybersecurity tools will see as enemies, and they will shut them down and they will deactivate them. So especially in the cyber world, as the first front of warfare, your cybersecurity defenses absolutely have to be minded as well, if not better, as the companies that you're involved in, the companies that you might own, and those companies that you're affiliated with. And I'll tell you, it takes a much more bespoke attention to protect the family from the types of well-resourced threat actors that I talked about earlier. Charlie, that was an excellent question. Did my answer live up to the severity of the question?
Another question. What's behind it? I mean, why the attacks? Why the attacks on individuals? Why do they want to access the strategies? I mean, do they want to tax somebody? What is the strategy behind the government with cyber warfare on this attack on individuals? Is it political? Is it economic? What have you guys seen?
Why are competitors, why are nation states interested in this information? Again, excellent question. And I do believe it all comes down to money. It comes down to political strategy. It comes down to having influence on people who make decisions. The livelihoods that you all influence outside of your family. Think of the livelihoods around the globe that rely on your investments, that rely on your success to put food on the tables. For economies to thrive, they need leaders like you. Governments would love to understand and know what's going on in your minds, in your brains, and what decisions you might take before you take them. What I've seen since leaving government, we didn't dive deeply into my background. I was a counterintelligence and a counterterrorism specialist. I was a senior advisor to the Secretary of State when it was John Kerry with the United States. And what we learned is the sophistication of national adversaries, the spy agencies around the world. We're seeing that same tradecraft being implemented in the private sector to get information on your investment strategies, how you treat your people, what is the next company you're going to invest in, are you going to pull out of a market, are you going to lean in on a technology? Governments, competitors, and people care deeply about these things. And there are people that make it their business to get access to this and sell this information for competitive advantage. So I do believe it comes down to money, and it's the competitive advantage that they're after, Charlie.
I just want to add something, and muchísimas gracias por la invitación, Charlie y Carol. Soy de Mexico, pero we'll talk in English now. My background is in protective intelligence. That means I spend a lot of time analyzing threat actors, understanding their motivations, understanding exactly why they would want to attack different organizations, different companies, different clients. What we are seeing, and brilliant answer, by the way, what we're seeing with, in addition to nation-state threat actors, we're also seeing those groups that may fall into the malicious actor. You know, that one person that may be angry, that may be upset with a client or an organization, or just me, you know, looking around for opportunity to attack. I spend a lot of time on the dark web. You can hire a cyber person to essentially attack, they sell their services now. And this is not to scare you, but you can buy someone on the deep web for the equivalent of $30 with crypto. That means that the access that anyone can have now to launch attacks against an organization, a family office, is so widespread. You don't need to be well-funded anymore. So just to add to your answer here, which is brilliant, is we're looking at different ecosystems of potential threats. And so cyber is incredibly important because that's entirely different ecosystem. Someone doesn't need to have access to your door anymore to attack you. They can have access to your cyber networks. They can have, all of us have a refrigerator or a TV that has Wi-Fi that's connected to the Wi-Fi. We call that Internet of Things. That is a door to your network. And if you have all of your information, financial information in your computers, in your servers, then you're essentially opening a door to sensitive information. So cyber, protecting your cyberspace, protecting your networks is incredibly important, equally as important as making sure that you close your doors and close your windows at night. So I just wanted to add that.
I didn't know it was that cheap to hire somebody to hack. It's $30, you said, Janet? $30. Think about that. $30. Somebody can hire someone to attack your family or your company. I wonder if you guys could, because we've done a bunch of these, Matt and Janet, talk about kind of the first thing you do with a family in terms of scanning and figuring out, because I will guarantee 90% of you will say, I'm safe, we have passwords, I'm good, my family, I don't have to worry about it. But tell me what you found. Matt and I just did one of these. Tell me some of the things that you found that people didn't know was out there on the dark web about them and their kids.
That's a great question. So one of the things that we do first and foremost is a risk assessment for every organization, every family office, because we can't protect you around what we don't know. So every family, every corporation is going to be different. And we assess specific vulnerabilities that are specific to you, to your family, to your networks. What we do is called an exposure assessment as part of that risk assessment. So we analyze media, we analyze the information that is out there. If you've signed up for a newsletter or you sign up for a new phone number and you put in your email and your phone number, that means that data brokers can collect information about you. And that would potentially be on the internet. So now your phone number may be linked to your name. An email may be linked to your name. So what I follow is I act as a malicious actor. That's to understand how a bad person may be wanting to collect information, I take the role as that individual so that I can understand exactly their motivations, I can understand exactly the information that's out there about you. And let me tell you, I can find everything. So first, once we find everything, then we can start implementing a lot of the procedures and protocols to make sure that we can remove this information about you. We can remove the photos, we can remove the listings of where your children go to school. We can clear the space and then start implementing safeguards to make sure that that information no longer leaks from you. And that requires also a lot of training of your staff and of your individuals. Understanding exactly how that happens is going to be the first step to preventing that it happens again. So if I understand, hey, I put a Facebook video of me on vacation and I'm listing exactly the location of where I'm staying, the hotel, the times and the dates, that means that a malicious actor can use this information about you. So we just do a sanitization, we sanitize a space, and then we also provide information about how you can prevent it in the future. So that's an exposure report. We also assess anything from cyber, covering your networks and certain vulnerabilities, educating families on what a malicious cyber attack can look like. It could be as simple as a WhatsApp message. If you get a WhatsApp message from someone pretending to be a friend, they send you a link, hey, this is an invitation to something, you click on the link, now you've opened up your phone to a potential attack. So we teach, part of this is education. Part of this is awareness building to understand exactly how this can happen, how we can prevent it in the future, and how we can safeguard also the networks around you. You know, I've been in so many conversations with clients where, hey, my cyber hygiene is perfect, but my cousin is the one who's probably leaving information outside for a malicious actor to find it. My child is posting photos or Instagram photos of, you know, the party that they went to or their networks that they hang out to. So we treat that entire ecosystem so that we can understand exactly what is relevant for you, how we can support you in the future, and how to prevent future attacks.
Excellent.
And tell them about this extremely nice prezi that you're giving everybody, a regalito, I think you say in Spanish, right? A little present from Kroll to you guys via Trusted Advisors. Tell them about this very cool new thing that you guys can have to try if you're interested.
Thank you, Carol. So at Kroll, we pride ourselves on staying in the forefront of technology. We can't solve our clients' problems without harnessing technology because technology is being used against us and our clients. The advent of artificial intelligence and how dangerous it can be and how powerful it will be if harnessed properly. So we stay in the forefront of technology. We make sure that you're protected from the vulnerabilities that technology can expose. And what we also did to put our money where our mouth is we invested a tremendous amount of money and acquired 2 tech companies that helped us develop what we call a family office application. And this family office application is designed to do a lot of things, but first and foremost, collect all of that threat intelligence that might be out there about the family. It's the information that Janet and her team can find on the deep and the dark web and social media and all these nefarious little enclaves that your adversaries might conspire. It's the information that we draw out of media. It's the information that we draw out of active campaigns and PR events. And we look for those threatening activities. We look for those indicators that somebody might be conspiring against you. But how do you do that in this enormous reservoir of information? It's tremendously hard. So we created an application. It's a web-based, no-code application, so we have extreme control over how we tweak it and tailor it to each family. And it's designed to collect all of that threat intelligence that might be out there, put it in one place so that it can be assessed and analyzed by people like Janet, who are absolute experts in drawing meaning out of disparate pieces of potentially threatening information. She and her team understand how global threat actors work. She understands, and her team understands, how actors in specific countries and environments might use information against you. And the idea is to take all of this information and to put it into one place so that it can be analyzed, assessed, collated, and actioned together. You have access to it. We have access to it. It allows us to provide better advisory services to our family office clients with full transparency. And when they ask, why are you recommending this strategy? We can take you back to that initial data point that alerted us to a potential vulnerability, the assessment thereof, and why we are providing this advisory and guidance. Now, a lot of family offices enjoy it because it also helps track spending when it comes to security services. Different jurisdictions around the world have tax incentives when money is spent based on a real and demonstrated threat environment. We can help demonstrate that threat environment so you can justify and verify the validity of your security spend. It can also help you track over time the trajectory of your threat environment. Are we aggregating more or less information? Are there milestone events where we see a spike in intelligence or information about you or the family? Maybe it's around a merger, an acquisition. Maybe it's around a family announcement. So we know going forward, using data as our guide, that the next time we embark upon a similar action, we're better prepared for it. So our job is to take all of those disparate data points that are out there and put them in one place so we can talk about them together. And Carol, thank you so much for the introduction on that. Anybody here at the conference who would like to see this, we can set up a follow-up, and we'll also offer 3 months free access to our family office application so you can play with it. You can start putting your information into it. You can work with Janet and her team in the background and understand why we track this information and what type of guidance and intelligence we can draw out of this information. Because in our world, there is a defined difference between information and intelligence. Janet consumes information. She gives you the intelligence.
And I just want to add one thing to it, because a platform is so great because it helps us uncover things that we probably would not see. You know, just for a little example, and I cannot provide too much information because it's a client, but just an example, we were able to understand that there was a potential malicious actor because of the different reportings that were happening by the family. None of them talked to each other. You know, so they weren't sharing this information because they thought it was, oh, this is kind of weird, you know, but it's nothing to talk about. I saw someone standing outside my child's school, but it was a little bit weird, but we didn't talk about it. Once we saw it on the application and we saw that it was happening multiple times, now it builds a story. Now it tells us something that we probably would not have seen, or the family would not have paid attention until they saw it on the platform and they understood this is probably connected and we need to investigate it a little bit further. So this is where data is just so crucial in being able to tell a story.
Any other questions? We're coming to, I know we've had your attention for a good amount of time, and we could keep talking all day, but we know we appreciate all your attention. We know that we're probably coming near the end of our time. Any last audience questions? How much time do you think we have, Charlie? Another? Yeah? Pretty much? Okay. So I will just ask maybe one last question from both of you. What's one or two things our audience can go home and do today to make their lives a little safer? And then how do they get in touch with you? Should they call Charlie if they want to meet with you privately? Or how long are you going to be here in Panama?
Sure. Thank you so much. Yes, we are absolutely available to all of you and all of you that you work with. I do ask, because we're being newly introduced, I do ask that Charlie be the broker. Of course, we can connect directly here. We'll be here through tomorrow. We'll be here all day. Charlie and Carol have been fantastic partners. Carol and I have worked some of the most complicated family matters globally that I can think of throughout my career. So we've been through the fire. I would go to war with Carol, and I really encourage through Charlie that we connect. A couple of things that we can do today, right now. Open that dialogue with your family. Every family dynamic is different. Children and grandchildren and nieces and nephews and cousins, they're all different. All of you have different visions for the future of your family's legacy, for the future of your generational wealth. Get on the same page with one another. As Janet just indicated, there are some very easy social media cleanliness actions that you and the family can take right away. But with a family of hundreds, it takes one person to deviate from the family plan to open up that threat trajectory. We don't want your adversaries to have access to your information, your money, or your thoughts. We know adversaries create targeting dossiers. For $30, you can hire somebody on the dark web. All of that information that is scraped off the internet, that comes from somebody calling your family and asking inquisitive questions, or masquerading as a potential business partner because we didn't do the proper due diligence, we don't understand who that person is, all of that information can be captured in what we consider a targeting dossier. Get on the same page with your family members as to what information you want known about the family, what information should be safeguarded, and what information must never be shared. I know you asked for several. For me, that is the one, and if we can accomplish that, your family's money, legacy, and reputation will be far more safe than it was before today. And I really encourage that. Again, Charlie, thank you so much. Janet, close it out.
And to add another thing here, one thing that I want to leave you all with is that to protect a legacy, you have to be proactive. It's not a question of if a disaster will happen, it's about when. And being able to successfully navigate through that means that you need to have built the muscle memory, you need to have built the plans, and ensure that those plans work, because sometimes, you develop plans, you think they're ready, there might be a fault in it. It's so important to understand what works, what doesn't work, and to follow through with that. So be proactive instead of reactive, because that will just ensure your success 10 times over. So that's what I want to leave you with. Thank you so much to Carol, to Charlie, for hosting us, and to everybody here. This is an incredibly delightful conversation to have. I'm so glad to have it. I can talk about this for years and ages. So anytime you want to talk about this, please do ping me, let me know. And, as Matt here also said, we were so excited. This is also my first time in Panama. Lovely country. So thank you so much for having us.
Thank you. And I'll be here until Friday.
Thank you all for your presentation, for being here, for sharing your knowledge to help us to continue growing as citizens. Well, as you heard, those who are interested in having a private session with Carol Pepper and the panelists or trusted advisors can write their names on the sheets we were placed on the tables, and a member of the trusted advisor team will be collecting the sheets from the table to coordinate the meeting. Right now we are going to open the Q&A session, so you are welcome to direct your question to our panelists. If you like to participate in this moment, please raise your hand and the microphone will be brought to you right now. Any question? Okay, so we are done for today. Oh, thank you very much for being here. We have, on behalf of Trusted Advisor, we thank you very, very much for joining us for this morning of valuable conversations, insights, and meaningful connections we made today. We also extend our appreciation to our partners, Pepper International and Kroll, and to our sponsors, Baybank, Quijano y Asociados, and UCAP for making this event possible today. Thank you, and have a great day ahead.